Um, what I wanted to say was, above all else, homeschooling should be fun. One of the reasons that we make the choice, that I made the choice to stay home with the support of my children's father, with the support of my husband, to stay home, um, was because I had been in the public school system, and I wanted there to be more attention on who they were as people. I wanted them to be able to actually be excited about education. I didn't want them to be obligated and sad and feel like it was drudgery. So a lot of the gifts that homeschooling gave was the chance to play with them, and not just play like not just come to class and play with them, but the chance to play with them in their education, the chance to make activities and field trips and excursions and science experiments, things that things I knew they were. Uh, so much of our lives is commodified and sold off to different people, um, so much that it convinces us that if we don't have the title or uh, the formal education, that we don't have the expertise. And so I remember a couple times trying to encourage parents to teach teach whatever it was that the child teach whatever subject it was they were approaching through the child's passions and hobbies and interests. So there's so many homeschool resources that you can teach math through comic books, that you can teach um, African American art story. There's anime. There's videos. There's songs. There's so many for every subject. There is another uh, way to teach it, and even if there isn't a curriculum that exists, because you are a homeschooling parent, you can make whatever you like. Like you are not bound. You are limitless. One of the things that homeschooling solidified for us is that every child is genius, and that's not hyperbolic. That's not exaggeration. That's not some sort of nice thing to say. Every child, without being interfered with and without being told they are less than, is genius because we all come here with intuition and we come here with a unique way of seeing the world. And so, even with the three children I gave birth to, our oldest one is what many people would consider the traditional intelligent. She can read something, she can spit it back at you. She can write it down so that you can understand it. Uh, my middle child is a whiz with anything that requires her to do a mind body connection. That's art, that's engineering, that's cooking, that's what they call kitchen chemistry or show cosmetics. Like it's amazing, and she's still genius. My youngest son loves science. He's very musically adept, like they all are. But there's times he sings songs that I'm going, where did that come from? And he's done that since he was very small. His father and I used to say, if you put on a song and this little boy doesn't dance to it, the song ain't good. Because he immediately reacts. So all three of them have the things that I've listed, but they also have their own blends of things and things that I may not be as attuned to. But the blessing of homeschooling meant that as the creator and the ancestors allowed me to learn their gifts, we could work in the wheelhouse of their gifts. We could expose them. Some of the earliest things that my oldest did was she would make videos. She would write uh, that expressed insight that I hadn't seen in people 6 times my age. You know, so that's the other thing, and all of what homeschooling does and nervous system regulation, which is true, and creating safe spaces, is that you get to be the architect of what it is that your child is receiving in the best way that your child can receive. I think about our spiritual traditions and the way that we're able to teach what they're learning in those ways. I think about um, different ways to approach math. You know, like because my middle daughter is so good at putting her hands to things, she's also an amazing businesswoman. And so we teach a young businesswoman. We teach uh, math to her using um, money. She got that thing down. If you teach positive and negative integers, talking about what someone owes her or what she owes, she got that thing down. It eliminates the being able to look at your child and respond where they are. Eliminates things that are made so many times. I'm just not good at science. Such a chef, this isn't my thing. There may be things that all of us may like a little more that make us feel like that's our sweet spot, but that's enough that we are just completely inept at. Um, and then, of course, returning to nervous system, if you find something that your child really digs and that you dig, and you share it with them, it's such an ease. It's fun. It's not hard, arduous, backbreaking work. It's not that. And it's not that it doesn't take some creativity or some time or some sitting with things or some leaning on community and seeing what resources they use. I love that in our children's education because they're in a community that is so similar that when they came through, when our girls came through womanhood rights, and they used a lot of proverbs in that process, that to be in class, to be in language arts class, a hip hop class, and a statement was made about proverbs, they had that stuff down. It came off so easy. And there were other children in other spaces, other regions who were not where we were, who were in other states, who were in other countries, who had gone through similar processes and could name proverbs as well. So it gave them like a kinship. Like, oh, you did that too. We weren't even in the same program. And then there's the blessing of being able to share your unique passion and identity and expertise with your child. So if you're a plumber, then you teach them things using plumbing. If you're a mechanic, then you teach using that. If you're an herbalist, then you teach them using that. If you're um, a musician, then you teach them using that. If you're a writer, there's so many things. And often, as I've shared before, that gifts in a family often repeat. You know, even if it's not profession, the gift will repeat in the family. So if someone in the family is a storyteller, someone else in that family is a storyteller. However it is that they tell the story, whether it's film or music or writing or drawing, whatever it is, and homeschooling gives you the opportunity to make a unique lesson for each one of your children or a unique output for each one of your children. Like, let's say we're studying Fannie Lou Hamer, and one of my children is remarkable at making um, stop motion Lego films. So maybe I ask her to do a stop motion on Fannie Lou Hamer on the speech she did in front of the Congress. That I asked one of them to do that, and then I asked someone else to draw a picture with the quote of her. This is "Land of the Free and Home of the Slaves." So someone does a picture, and then I asked someone else to write a song about her. Uh, there's just ways. There's so many ways, and so outside of all, well, alongside, not outside of, but alongside the prescriptive things, the things that in comparison to public school, the uh, creating space for them to keep them safe emotionally, physically, uh, mentally, and spiritually, it just make me get to have fun. The amount of times that I was sitting there, especially when the numbers were smaller, with my children and other children in the homeschool class and said, isn't so and so having an exhibit? Let's go. Let's just put the books down. Let's go. It was great. Or is so and so serving whatever kind of food that we connect to a lesson? Or there were times where the children were involved in their African dance class, and there was one time we saw these children stepping, these young folks stepping, and the kids were so thrilled with it, and they didn't know the history of gumboot. So that let us not only teach them about South African gumboot and the mines and the dress and the tradition, but it also let us connect to HBCUs, to the Divine Nine, to similar expression. You know, how in the diaspora there is a continuum that continues to show up. It also let us create a step show for them that they participated in, where they stepped through I don't know, Jama, and it was great. So all I want to say today, I was thinking through it, and I was like, I have all uh not heavy, but you know, very heart centered. I don't know, it's all heart centered. But these comparative analysis, yada yada yada, things about homeschooling, and at the bottom and the top of it, it needs to be fun. If you are blessed, have a work schedule that lets you include your children in your day, which doubles your load, doubles, triples your load. Or you are blessed to have the support of a partner where you can work less, or maybe not work outside of the home, still work uh, and homeschool. Your load is already going to be double. You're already working, whether it's domestically and outside of the house, it's domestically or outside the house. You're already working, and then you add homeschool. That's another job. And with it being that, there ought to be joy. It is a terrible feeling to try and teach your child something in our life, pushing your ways through it, because then they feel pushed through it, and there's no joy in it, and they feel no joy in it, and both of y'all miserable and trying to get through this. But the point is to not have that sort of mercury, to not be on a calendar that feels impossible, to not push through something that makes you feel like a load that you're pushing up the hill. I mentioned that all children are geniuses because even if you don't get through the whole lesson in the time that you had set up, the children are still going to gain. Uh, it's two things. We read a what we used to call Wazuri meetings or beautiful people meetings. Those were our parent meetings uh, in the Shule in the co-op. And one of the mamas came and she said, "If the children don't do anything but read books," she was talking. She was giving an example of a mother who was on bed rest while she was pregnant. And so she had to like get all her children to sit in the bed around her and read books and throughout the duration of her pregnancy. And she was like, if they don't do anything but read books, they are still thriving. And secondly, when you think about how much time a child actually spends in class, if the class, if school is supposed to start at 8:15, it really doesn't start till about 8:30. You have all the announcements, children have to eat their breakfast, yada yada yada. So maybe you get to 8:30 it starts. And whether the children are changing classes or not, or you just have classes that you are um, less receptive to parenting work, that student is there in class about 8:30, maybe 11:30. And then at 11:30, they head to lunch. Um, Sometimes right after lunch, it's usually about 20 minutes, so it's too fast for them to actually eat well. But lunch is about 20 minutes, so they hustle through lunch really fast. And then, if they're fortunate, they get to go out to recess, which is usually another 20 minutes. They come in and they do their bathroom break. And then they might come back to the classroom, and if their school still has an arts program or any extracurriculars, they will come back, take a small break, maybe try and cram a class in, and then what's that? What I said, 11:30. So maybe it's 1 o'clock, and we're rushing to an elective, and then we get back from the elective, and we might try to cram one more class in, and then it's time to go home. Now the buses are pulling up, and they're calling numbers. So when you really think about it, that child is in class for 3 hours, maybe from the beginning of the day. Then they have lunch, then they have recess, then they might have an elective, and then they have another hour at the end of the day. So it's almost a total of 4 hours that they have in school. Not 4 hours of learning, not 4 hours of concentration, just 4 hours of class time that they have. And so when we come home and we're homeschooling our children, we go, they need to have a 6 hour day because they need 6 hours of focus. They don't have 6 hours of focus at all. And the blessing, the other things that we have at home is when when I was giving birth to my second baby, first baby was watching She was paying attention. It was a science lesson. And I don't mean that the actual birth, but also the gestation. She was paying attention when when dinner is made, when groceries are purchased, when the house is clean. These are all lessons. There's lessons in budgeting. There's lessons in what foods go together. There's lessons in how do you plan a meal so that it's actually giving you a balanced meal. And then there's always games online to support. There's a game called my kids used to really love it, and sometimes they like it now. But it's called like Fix My Plate or something, and it teaches about um, if I can think of what it is, I'll put it in the link. It teaches about dietary standards in different countries. And so when we look at what it is that we put on our plates in the United States, and then we look at different countries around the globe and what their dietary standards are, that made my children ask questions. We don't have enough vegetables on our plate. One of them asked. I tried to do it for the US in the game, and it won't let me put this many vegetables on the plate because it was trying to get them to put meat and starches on the plate in a particular arrangement. So there's just so much. The whole world is a classroom, and not just for the children, but also for us as parents, as teachers, as guardians, as aunts and uncles. One of my favorite lessons that we did was making ice cream in a plastic bag. So we had two bags. We had salt and ice on the outside bag, and then cream on the inside bag. And we spent all our time shaking the bag, uh, caused the cream to mix. And they were vegan, so causing the I think it was coconut milk we used to mix so that we could make ice cream. We stood outside with spoons and ate our ice cream out of our bag. And so that's a lesson on life. States of matter. It's a lesson on why does the coagulate's not the right word, but why does the ice cream solidify from liquid to solid? What is it that makes it do that? Why does the rock salt cause that? It's so many things. So I could do this all day, but it's very, very exciting. So many opportunities for learning, so many opportunities for play. And again, when you have taken on the charge of homeschooling, I've had so many mothers who see my children during the day when I would be at the gym or the grocery store or wherever it is with them and be like, "You're homeschooling?" Uh-huh. Oh my God, I tried that. It was so terrible. I could not wait to get me back in school. And to each her own, to each her own. But when there's play in the homeschool, and there weren't days that I was like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I don't want to do. But when there's play in the homeschool, when we get to go see an exhibit that I enjoy as well, when we get to go to a science museum and they're all playing on different exhibits, and I am too, it really changes the trajectory of your day, your month, your week, your year. It's very different. So many cool things. My brain is flooded with all these experiments and activities that we did. Um, we even had we even had a mother who is former military, and she I'm not gonna get it right, so there's no need to come for me in the comments. But she was teaching them drills, and I don't know what it is when you change books, like about face, da da da. Da. She was teaching them those, and they were getting them. It was dope. It was so dope. So again, the reason I said all of this, the fun, the fun, and being able to connect your children to your family's goals, talent, is to not limit yourself, to not think that because you didn't study pedagogy, um, and not that there's not a place for it. I'm not poo-pooing on my education. That you don't know how to meet the needs of your children before your children ever ended up in any sort of school system or whatever it is. They're learning from you. They're learning from you. They're watching you. You're learning from them. You are watching their interests and their gifts and their talents, what lights them up and what shuts them down. So before there's any other teacher or there's any other external resource that can speak to or grow your child, you know best. Because that person, that precious person that is your child, is the sacred charge that the ancestors gave to you. And only you. Not to me, as much as I love these babies, and I don't mean the ones I gave birth to, but all the others. As much as I love them, I'm not the person who was divinely and uniquely charged to shepherd, guide, learn from, and teach those souls. But when they're your babies, that is your charge. And the last thing, I always keep saying the last thing. There was one time that one of my children was doing an assignment. She was beating herself up, like rough, beating herself up bad, and she couldn't get it. And then she was getting dismayed with the rest of us. And she was like, all this stuff. She was very blocked. And I looked at her. She's in tears. I looked at her and I was like, you don't have to get all this right. And she started crying. Yes, I do. And I was like, crap. So, so along with all the other things, we talked about generational challenges and generational blessings. The blessing in my family is that there are a lot of intelligent people, which is also the curse of thinking you have to know everything and be perfect in everything. Um, and at whatever age she was that 9 or 10, she was showing me that that had been linked onto her. It had been, it had been taught to her, whether it was, I hope y'all saw that butterfly, whether it was deliberate or not. She began to believe that her intelligence also meant she needed to be flawless and she needed to not get anything wrong and she needed to not make mistakes. And that was the true proof of her genius. And the truth is, without mistakes, we don't learn. We don't learn. So, anyway, this is Reverend Okonkwo Walimu Yogi Sister Mama Adia saying, have a all right. Peace.